Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. This is a Spawn Daily episode, this Curse of Spawn number 11 that we're going to talk about today. And the fact of the matter is this three-issue Curse of the Spawn, Angela-focused series just is not my cup of tea. I've never been a big fan of Angela, and although the art in this is fantastic, the story is like big and epic, but I feel like maybe it's me. I'm just not understanding what's going on in terms of any kind of real answers. They leave a lot of stuff ambiguous. And I got to think that they're doing that because, again, you're in Spawn, in the Spawn universe at this time, they're still building mythology out, even though we're almost 4 or 5 years in at this point. But, you're, like I said, still building things out. And Angela certainly is not as fleshed out as, Al Simmons and some of the other characters at this point. So, maybe you want to leave some stuff on the table to come back to later on, and maybe you get to it and maybe you don't. But when you're going back and rereading this, with the stuff that's fleshed out that pays off, you get a different feeling. And with this, yeah, it just didn't resonate for me. So all that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll dive into the issue. So it's got a really cool Dwayne Turner cover, very similar in how it looks compared to the previous three covers. They certainly all have the same sort of feel, very white, very light colored, which suits former Angel, I guess you'd say, who Angela is. So we look inside the front cover. The story's by Alan McElroy, as most of the Curse of Spawn is. I think maybe all of it even written by him. Dwayne Turner handles the pencils, as I said. Danny Miki on inks. We have lettering by Tom Orzechowski. Colors by Todd Broeker and Mark Nichols, with a special thanks to John Gordon. And we get the recap there, which I'll read because I know it's been about a week since we've talked, maybe even longer than that, since we've talked about the first two parts of this story. So we know Angela was sent to this planet. This being called the Argus, this sort of pure evil, supposedly was attacking the planet and eating all the souls and whatnot. So Angela was hired to go and destroy it. The Argus had this thing called the Chron, which exploded and threatened to destroy the universe, destroy reality. So we're told here that the Argus explodes, activating the Chron and releasing Angela, who had been caught in the Argus's web. She was thrown into the foyer of Oblivion, like the beginning of Oblivion. And we also saw throughout the first two issues this mysterious Deurges character, who's sort of a harbinger of death in a lot of ways. And he watched Angela flash back to her early time in the Elysium, the City of Angels, and the Hall of Light, where she was trained by her mentor, an angel called Catherine. And she also got to meet the old woman, who is a representation of God in the story. And Angela was prepared for her journey to Earth during these flashbacks to stop this eternal triumvirate from fracturing, right? Which is an interesting way to look at, like, internal triumvirate. Three, you automatically think of like the Christian God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But regardless of that, when she got to Earth, she went to Rat City. She tried to get Spawn's help. Spawn was kind of giving her a bad time, didn't really want to have much to do with her, didn't really want to give her much help. We saw at that moment this huge antimatter bolt come down and destroy the building, the Elysium Embassy on Earth, where the decisions made by the army of heaven or forces of heaven on Earth are all handled. And that bolt of anti-life energy also hit Spawn and hit Angela, and it transported Angela away, and it made Spawn kind of drunk with power. And the last time we talked, we saw that Spawn, perhaps because of this bolt of antimatter, and again, we're not sure, but cliffhanger ending where Spawn looks like Al Simmons again. His appearance has been restored. So we'll get to that in the next episode when we talk about the next issue of Spawn. But for this one, we see Angela flying through space, I guess you'd say, the antimatter. It looked like she just disappeared, but here we see her flying, and she's talking about how there's all these electrical storms and she's being pulled through, and she's worried that it's going to be kind of painful for her. So as she's traveling, again, a flashback, a lot of flashbacks, in the first part of the story, issue 9 of Curse of Spawn, we got the origin of Angela, how she's sort of the amalgamation of 5 different souls of women throughout time who have been killed unjustly. So here we see her finish her training, get all her permits from Catherine, and then go before the assembled warriors of heaven. And you see her there. She's very touched as she's given the staff, and all the forces of heaven cheer her. They welcome her with a single voice, a voice of love, faith, and future, we're told. So finally, Angela comes kind of back to herself, I guess you'll say, and she's in Limbo's core. She's on this planet. It's very cold. She says the capital city prison, Cataclysm it's called, looks to be destroyed and deserted. So she's not sure where the souls that go to Limbo. And for those not familiar, this is sort of the traditional Christian Limbo in a way. Limbo being that place. It's not heaven. It's not hell. And if you weren't really, really good in life or really, really bad, you go to Limbo, and sometimes you have to spend some time there, and then they will allow you into heaven. They're not sure where to put you, basically. You go to Limbo and you kind of just hang out there for a little while you plead your case, I guess you could say. So while Angela's there, she runs into an old friend, Caliandra, who's another angel, serves as kind of a lawyer at times. And she's got these people there with her, and Angela calls them Grapes of Wrath rejects. They definitely look kind of run down and old, but they're basically people that died in a tornado. A tornado hit their trailer park, and the man is in Limbo because they're not sure where he belongs. So very similar to what I was saying. And they were actually all 4 of these people, I use the word people loosely, all 4 of these beings, I guess I should say, were in the Elysium embassy on Earth when that antimatter struck, and they were able to escape into Limbo. So Angela senses evil around, and she does what she does best, which is, protect the innocent and fight and attack. So you can see that double page spread there where she's fighting against these forces of evil that really shouldn't be there on Limbo. She's not sure why they are there. They're obviously a threat. And so once she finishes defeating these demonoids, they head for shelter in the only place that's around, even though it doesn't exactly look welcoming, I guess you'll say, this Cataclysm prison citadel. So they head in there, and they see all the other inhabitants of Limbo have all been killed as well. It looks like there's a recent outbreak as well. Looks like some of the prisoners must have gotten loose because some of the sentries, some of the guards for the people that were imprisoned in Limbo have been killed as well. And as Angela and her companions are looking around, another former angel shows up, somebody who was imprisoned in Limbo. We're not exactly sure why. Her name is Lilith, but she calls herself Angela's sister. And I don't know if it's just the way, angels, these female angels that we've met before call themselves sisters, or if she has an even closer connection to Angela, because she looks a lot like Angela in a lot of ways. She's got the red hair, although it's cut very, very short. And along with Lilith, because Angela says, who let you out of your cage? And she goes, oh, funny you should ask. I think you've met my date for the evening, and it's Deurges. And not only is it Deurges, but they have what is known as the Elysian lock. And it's basically a time keeping device, and it's very rare, and it's in a lot of ways it's the goodness, the soul of an angel, the goodness that's inside them. That's what it symbolizes in kind of this metaphorical form. And obviously, angels are very long lived, so the whole idea of this lock or this hourglass that kind of never runs out of time. And so when Angela sees that, she knows it's a very powerful artifact. She doesn't like seeing it in the hands of the Deurges. And so right away, she knows Lilith must be up to no good. She starts battling him. The Deurges says, you shouldn't be fighting. The time for fighting is over. And, Angela's not really listening to him in any way, shape, or form. And again, this is where some of the vagueness comes in. This Elysium lock is not really explained other than it's a powerful artifact and, what I've already said about it. But why is the Deurges trying to keep them from fighting? We don't know, because Angela goes in guns blazing in a lot of ways. So when Angela attacks, the roof sort of collapses. It's not a very stable structure at this point from the previous battles. So with the time that's granted from the roof kind of collapsing and separating Angela from Deurges and Lilith, Angela makes a gateway, and she allows Kalindra and the family Custers to leave, to go to Elysium. And Angela says, "Give anybody who's there, give them a message that Lilith is loose and she has the Elysium lock, and I'm going to try to get it back. And also tell them that there's this other person, this man or this thing, Deurges, that seems to be like the herald of death, and it's something to be concerned about." So once those beings are out of harm's way, Angela heads outside. She doesn't get very far before she's attacked by Lilith. Again, a pretty brutal battle between the two. And as they're fighting, the Argus shows up. And again, this is what's interesting. Even in the face of the Argus, Lilith is not going to join forces with Angela. She's not going to, stop what she's doing. And again, this is where the ambiguity of the story kind of bugs me a little bit. Not really sure, what's up with Lilith? Why does she dislike Angela so much? She's obviously not working with the Argus, but she sort of lets herself be taken by the Argus, and it doesn't seem like maybe the Argus is just so powerful that she can't fight back, but it's like Angela's able to defeat the Argus, and you'll see that here in a second, and Lilith was kind of standing toe-to-toe with Angela, so I don't know, it almost seems like Lilith allows herself to be eaten by the Argus, which is just brutal. And Lilith is talking about, killing me won't bury the truth. You're damned. You'll know it soon enough. She's giving all these hints that Angela is not necessarily who she thinks she is. But yeah, Lilith is killed. And Angela lashes out. She destroys the Elysium lock because it's too dangerous to fall into the wrong hands. So she throws it. It explodes and kind of releases all its energy. We're not sure what the consequences of that would be, and not sure if the explosion of the Argus somehow weakened the Argus, or the explosion of the Elysium lock weakened the Argus in some way. Perhaps it did. Perhaps that's why she's able to basically hack the Argus to pieces when she was having so much trouble fighting it earlier. So we're told that she cleaves it in two, and she hacks away limb after limb. Very much looks like the spider-like creature, 8 legs and whatnot. And as the Argus dies and screams, it exudes billions of ectoplasmic grubworms, we're told. And that they die once they're exposed to air, and it's just this massive goo. And kind of as a final disgusting view here of Lilith, we see as she's exposed from Angela cutting up the Argus, she's already been digested by the Argus because all that's left is her skeleton, although she can still talk. She's like, "See you around," and she disappears. So she's clearly not dead, and we know it's just these bodies the angels have are just necroplasm, so I'm sure she can regenerate and whatnot. So at that moment, there's a couple of angels that show up. Obviously, they got the message from Kalindra, and they show up and they say, "Okay, what happened? What's going on? Half the known dimensions have been shaken up like a cheap snow globe," and Angela says, "Well, we have a new enemy. He's been around a long, long time, and I'm going to take him out." She, vows to take him down. She says, "Hear me. I'm not afraid anymore, Deurges. You want to fight? Name the place. This isn't over. I swear on my soul." So Angela's thinking is Deurges is behind all this manipulation, all this puppet mastery or what have you, but that's it. That's the end of the story. So again, I kind of struggle to find meaning or, why this matters. So, just to recap, Angela gets hired to try to protect the planet. She fails in doing that and gets captured by this evil being called the Argus. All the while, this other being who seems to be some harbinger of death shows up wherever death is, called Deurges, is there watching. This Deurges figure had been at the death, again, just watching, had been at the moment of death for all 5 of the souls that eventually combined to become Angela. So Angela's captured by the Deurges. The Deurges, gains enough power from eating this planet to activate something called the Chron, which explodes and threatens all of reality. And Angela is thrown, because of this antimatter blast, thrown through time and space, ends up on Earth. While she's traveling to Earth, she has these flashbacks of, you know, her origins and her training to become the primary warrior of heaven at Elysium. Angela arrives on Earth, asks Spawn for help in fighting the Argus and trying to prevent the Chron from destroying all of reality. Antimatter blast hits the Elysium embassy on Earth, hits Angela, hits Spawn. Angela ends up in limbo. She fights the Argus. She defeats it. No mention is made of the Chron really in this issue. So by defeating the Argus, Angela has saved reality, I guess. And we also are introduced something called the Elysian lock, which holds all of an angel's time. It was never clear to me. It's like, so Lilith has this. Does it contain the time that she has left? Does it contain all the angels' time? I mean, it seems like it must contain all the time that all the angels cumulatively have left. And so it's a powerful artifact in that way, but what exactly can it do if it's in the wrong hands? Again, don't know. Don't know what Lilith's plans are. It's not really ever explained other than she hates Angela and wants to fight her. Angela doesn't want the Elysian lock to fall into the clutches of the Argus, so she throws it at the Argus and it explodes. The lock, it's crazy, dangerous. Any self-respecting, emotional thinking ex-angel wouldn't try it, so here goes, and she explodes it and then takes out the Argus. Again, I'm not sure what the point of this story is. So I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe when Blake comes in, we'll chat about it real quick before we dive into the next issue. But yeah, again, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm missing something. So the art is fantastic. That's the saving grace for this series. I don't really understand what's going on. Maybe, again, it's just foundational stuff that never got a chance to be fleshed out. Maybe it does get fleshed out later and make more sense. But I went looking for some context on a few different like Spawn message boards and what have you and resources, and I couldn't really find much. So maybe it's just one of those things. They just enjoy it for what it is, which is some really cool fights and some really great art from Angela. But at the end of the day, I don't know. It didn't really land for me. I imagine if you're a big Angela fan, you probably love seeing how important she is, how powerful she is, all this big cosmic battle. And like I said, I love the art, but for me, a lot of these terms that are being used here just feel, kind of made up and not explained. And so it makes I just don't have the context for it. So again, definitely not the worst comic I've ever read, but I feel like I'm missing something to the story. But again, it's probably me. Maybe your mileage may vary and you may enjoy it a lot. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, apologies for missing so many days in a row. Won't happen again. We're trying to get ahead. I would love nothing better than to release a few episodes, multiple episodes a few days of the week to try to get caught up and get back on schedule. So hopefully we'll see how that all plays out as the year continues. But we really appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you joining as always. Again, back to some regular Spawn issues, like I think 4 in a row. I think we do 63, 64, 65, and 66 for the next 4 episodes. So again, encourage you to go check out the show notes. Check out that reading order that Blake Whitlow's put together. It's a fascinating and very useful resource for how to read Spawn and how to get the most out of the regular series, as well as all these other series that tie in. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. We appreciate you joining us as always, and we'll talk to you next time.